You want to talk a little bit about your Battle Royale movie?
Yeah, so yeah, let's talk about. I don't know if you have any specific questions, but we're happy to talk about anything specific. But I guess we'll just start with the story of how we got
Yeah.
into Battle Royale. We were talking, Film Valor is our YouTube channel, and so we do a lot of different, bigger content, smaller content, but then we have stuff that's specifically designed for YouTube and for younger filmmakers to say, hey, oh, that's something I could do too. So we went out in 2018 and made basically a short video that was, combining battle royale style video games, specifically PUBG, with Star Wars, and it was something that we really wanted to explore, and we hadn't done much special effects work. So we went out and did that, and it did well. I mean, people liked it, and there was a nice response to it, and it was something that we felt proud of. But then we also said, what if we did a part two, but like really one upped ourselves because we think we can do so much better. So we got the iPhone, we got anamorphic lenses, and put them on. And we took the team out and had a really strategically planned storyboard and everything else, and more of a storyline and a lot more crazy things. And we went out and shot part two in September, and then did 6 months of visual effects work.
For the visual effects work, because I know like No Fear, it looks like you had a good amount and stuff like that, but like 7 by 7, you're not really relying on that kind of work for most of your stories. Is that just kind of a chance to get to play with some tools you don't always get to use? Or
Yeah. Yeah, well, and also it was the kind of thing where it is a video game. So, you kind of get away with things a little bit more. So, like, okay, this kind of looks like maybe a digital version of an X-Wing, but hey, it's a video game, and that's the way a video game would look pretty much. But yeah, I think it was a chance to just grow in a lot of different directions. I know I'm sure you could speak to this as
No,
well, but
yeah. I mean, I think we came in with the state with mission statement of just making everything bigger.
yeah,
Um,
and
Editing,
better.
special effects, script, acting, action, everything
Yeah.
was, just raise it up, a few more notches. The music, I mean, it's all the things that we want to try, especially because Jameson has a new editing setup and whatnot.
Yeah, we wanted to take it for a
We
spin.
really wanted to take everything for a spin,
Yeah.
and see how far we could push it with, with just a
There's
little.
another funny thing, which we haven't touched on, but and I don't know if we will anywhere, so we're gonna give it to you. But yeah,
sure.
the reason we made it a spaghetti western is really funny because, and I think it was honestly, if I'm being very honest, I think it was Evil Dead 2 that sort of inspired the thinking of, hey, you know what? It's okay to like do something completely different in the sequel, as long as you don't ruin the core and maybe improve it somehow.
Right.
So with the sequel, we were inspired to try to do it maybe like a spaghetti western film, and we thought that might be really cool and sort of interesting. And Tom looked great in a cowboy hat, so like all that worked out really well. And so it became part two, which is like Leone's part two, for a few dollars more,
Mhm.
for Commandos more. And we really looked at that film uh, in its spaghetti western, specifically structure and design. And so, I mean, really, that was the guide for, hey, how can we do all this? Make it also kind of this western, because in PUBG, there's kind of a feeling of it being like a western as well, and it's kind of really an undercurrent that you it's just kind of there, and you could wear stupid stuff, like hats and cowboy hats. So it kind of made sense for some reason. So we kind of went after that, and that kind of gave us what I think of as like a unifying idea. Like, hey, let's make a spaghetti western version of this. And I think that really got really exciting after, even beyond the 6 months of visual effects work. That became like a Star Wars piece. But then when Adam was able to put his music in, which was fantastic, I mean, it really became like, wow, okay, this is an Ennio Morricone, this is a Leone, you know, throwback homage. I mean, you could,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to the score, but that's really where I was like, okay, we're doing it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no. I think just in general, we all wanted to just rank, like just hype everything up. I think with the music, it was fun because it was, I like playing guitar, and I don't really do a lot of recordings with guitars, but it was really cool to get to record it in something, the spaghetti western with the vibrato, tremolos, and all that stuff. So it was cool to play something that I naturally like doing, which is the guitar parts. Um, but yeah, no, I think just like in terms of we both got new gear, so musical gear. So we just wanted to test our what we had with the skills that we had, and I think it was pretty fun. For me, it was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
mean, just working with everybody on the sets, and then just working with the music, and just kind of you know making it feel a certain way that because I mean, I think with spaghetti westerns is that even if you haven't seen one, you kind of know what to expect. You've seen those
Mhm.
commercials, you've seen those little bits in other movies where it's like, wait,
Yeah.
did I just see that, Clint Eastwood kind of
Yeah.
thing happen? But I haven't seen that movie, but I get it already. So I think, having that feeling of people knowing, okay, that's the Western, that's the Western sound, or that's the Western, moment before, the battle or whatever was really important to, just kind of
It was a
put our own
unifying
spin on it.
aesthetic, it was just a
Yeah.
unifying idea, and that those things work so well because people know exactly what you're talking about. But also definitely like inspired by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, thinking about that and his discussions with Rodriguez about Once Upon a Time in Mexico and like what the logic was behind all of that. So if there is a part three, it's got to be Once Upon a Time dot dot dot. So we're sort of following that lineage as well. So that's like a whole thing. Um, if there is a part three. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much about it.
Yeah.
It's funny because the first thing that came to mind with me with introducing Western to it or putting more of a Western spin was I thought it was more like Mandalorian season 1 and Book of Boba Fett are very much Westerns,
Yeah.
even
Right.
from the Star Wars angle, but you did it was just funny to me you didn't mention it because that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, well, that's also part of it. I mean, that's really part of it. But I guess that started to become part of the Star Wars language. You're absolutely right, and so that's kind of what was. You're right. I gotta excuse myself. That was like the original trigger for it. But like then it started to make sense on so many levels. It was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's also like PUBG. It's also like this. But yeah, you're right.
That's funny. Yeah. That's really cool. How is it different working with obviously Star Wars is not your IP compared to when you do completely original things or because you just did it for YouTube? Is it like we're just gonna have fun and it's not a problem?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, you're trying to, well, there's a lot of things we can say about that because in reality, we're trying to honor, and I'm sure Adam has his own stories about this, like, honor the fans of those different concepts, but it's kind of like doing a horror movie in that sense because you're like, okay, we want people to hopefully like this from a genre perspective. But, like, if you get spaghetti westerns, there's certain expectations of that will make you laugh, so you have to hit those aesthetics too. If you play PUBG, we want to hit the feeling of PUBG. The HUD has to be accurate to PUBG. The feeling of why the emergency pickup moves a certain way. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Just as importantly, which is almost impossible except taking it from the game. And there was a lot of Star Wars things that we had to really talk about. Like, okay, how do we make this accurate and but not go overboard? So that's kind of part of the conversation. And obviously, with anything Star Wars, it's kind of tricky because there's such a passionate fan base with it that you're kind of like, are people going to hate this? the whole
Passion is
time.
one word.
Yeah. So, but there's like hundreds of situations. Actually, one really funny one that you probably get a laugh at. We did. I mean, it's probably obvious. I don't know how obvious it is, but we did like a lot of miniature type of work, stop motion, like with the Jawa, in a very simple way. But we also use toys. We use the Boba Fett fire sprayer slave one toy to make the flying scenes and to get in close. And there's one time that, to my horror, Adam probably was laughing at me. I said, "I got it. I got the whole ship flying and everything." And then I said to him, "Oh my God, I got the wings wrong." You know what I mean? Like the wings had to be a certain way. So
Oh, okay.
he watched as I literally went back in and cut out the wings and put a different position wing on there because the toy couldn't do it. So that was like for the Star Wars fans. It's like, okay, they're gonna be like on us about the wings, like the
Yeah,
way
it's one of those things when you do it right, nobody notices, but if you do it wrong.
yeah, they're gonna like go crazy and burn the house down. So yeah, there's like 100 examples of that. I don't
Yeah,
know what
no,
else you could say.
we've been joking ever since we started filming. Is that Matt, who plays the Mandalorian. He's
Oh yeah, we should talk
he,
about that.
which his costume is great. But what he did was he goes on some Facebook groups of these Mandalorian, like it's like a Mandalorian club. You get to build your own Mandalorian armor
Yep.
and whatnot. And I guess I don't know if he was trying to submit himself for the club or he just posted a picture on the thing, but they were like, "Oh, that's not the right chest plate fragmentation on his armor." And I'm like, "Are we still on this topic? This is like
I know.
35 years old,
Yeah,
a topic."
right.
And so we were always like during this, the filming, we were always like just like kidding with ourselves, like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna rip that apart. Oh, look how they're gonna rip this
Yeah.
apart."
Like, I can understand them doing that, but for Matt, it's really upsetting because he, like, put all this effort into having it be unique,
Yeah.
like, having it be a unique
And he
costume.
is I
Right.
mean, I like Star Wars. Matt loves Star Wars to the point where it gets annoying.
Yeah, he does.
And but it's great because
But
it
I'm that way too.
yeah.
I'm more so of a Star Wars fan than Adam, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I live it as well, so I kinda get where Matt's coming from. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, Matt knows everything about
Yeah,
Star
so I'm like getting it right for Matt so that he feels, I'm proud to do the Star Wars.
Yeah, there was a lot of things he
Resurrection.
brought up too.
Yeah.
Little things. I'm trying to think. Like he's like, "Oh, maybe this isn't right," and we're like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
Matt
No,
like, pretty much
he and he was
knows.
right. I mean,
Oh,
Matt is a very good old friend. Um, who it's hard to explain Matt. You just got to meet him.
you got to experience Matt. That's the
It
way.
is
He's
an
one of those
experience.
people. You have to
Yeah.
experience him. He's really funny. We also did a video called like Master Class, which is like a play on Master Class and about being a stoner. And Matt is so funny that we just basically turned the cameras on him and said, like, explain how to be a stoner, like, and everything that, in your weird little outfit. We called him Lord Dankshire. He had like a little suit on and stuff like that. And he's just like a stoner with pajama pants who's like explaining, but like, he looks formal only up here, how to be a stoner. And it's a really funny video, but most of it is really just Matt being Matt. And with the ADR in Battle Royale,
Oh, right.
we really try, like, okay, crazy thing. In the technical process of shooting the movie on an iPhone, we realized, oh my God, the sound is going to be atrocious. And
Yeah.
we don't want to bring, a mixer
We didn't really
there.
we had like five,
We had
six
really
person
no crew. I mean, it was me, Adam, Nicole Rakowski, shout out to her, Matt Painovich, Tom
Tom
Coughlin,
and Dave.
and then Dave Lembo, and pretty much most of those people are actors, so you can't really ask them to be like, "Hey, can you move that thing?" Because there's nothing.
Hey, actor, move that light.
Yeah, and there were no lights anyway to move, but still. But yeah, I mean, where was I going with this? I'm blanking right now.
Oh no, the ADR.
Oh, so we had to do the whole movie ADR. So just to explain to the viewers who might not know, we ADR is where you go back in and re-record the voice lines, and like from scratch, like in a room, looking at the monitor. And that's really difficult, even for actors who are super experienced. So we have done that with people who have been on major films and major television, and they look like they want to murder you after every single line. Like, oh, can you maybe just do this scene too? They look like they want to murder you after every single time you suggest that. So basically, to ask a bunch of less experienced actors to do it is like, wow, how are we going to get through this? But everybody did such a great job, and it was certainly enhanced by the fact that they had a mask on, in most cases, because we were able to, really give Matt the freedom to say some things that we thought were funny in the ADR. Like, okay, Matt, what if you just, I don't know, just like make up something you can call him as a name, like just do something with this. And Adam and Matt go back so far that when, Adam plays the character Green Bean, and in the movie, and they really kind of have the opposite personalities in real life, which was even more funny because Adam tends to be more competitive in video games, and Matt is sort of like less
Yeah.
so, just screwing around. So that's what was funny. But I told them as the director, I said to them, just play your actual relationship and like let's just see what this dialogue can be like. And though it was scripted, they were able to really get to a point where it was very honest, and you felt their relationship was really strong. And I think anyone who watches that would be like, wow, these guys are good actors. But in reality, they are actually. But in reality, it was a lot of it was like real,
Oh,
us
yeah.
laughing at what we were saying and stuff like that. And like, playing the friendship.
Oh, yeah. If you were just in one of our Xbox Live parties for one night with Matt, I mean, you'd be surprised of what he would say. I mean, some of it is very disturbing, but also it kind of makes you feel normal because whatever
Yeah.
things you're thinking, you kind of realize, oh, okay, it's not that extreme to what Matt is. You kind of have to judge yourself by that because Matt has no filter.
Yeah, he
There is
really
no
doesn't.
filter on that man
No,
whatsoever,
right.
which is a good thing. I mean, because I'm gonna be honest, he entertains the hell out of us with
Yeah,
it.
he does.
I mean, but yeah, no, very much. It's just how we game. Sometimes I like to be more
Yeah.
competitive, and I'll take it out on Matt or whatever. I'll be like, Matt, what are you just standing there for? You
Also,
know?
like a lot of the scenes. What's funny because pretty much all the script. I feel like we're just rambling, but this is all good information, right? This is good, right?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, so I mean, we basically did a lot of different sequences where it was just based on things that happened to us in the game. It was like when we try to revive each other in PUBG, somebody always screws it the hell up. It's like you can't get the revive button accurate when
Yeah.
you're getting shot, and stuff like that. So a lot of those things were like, hey, let's put that in. Adam, like in the middle of one of our conversations, started talking about laser scopes on in 80s action films. So we're like, hey, let's put that in because that's funny. It's a weird thing to be saying to each other, kind of in like a Clark's way. So let's put that in. That's great. And there was a lot of things, even like Matt really was the idea behind the emergency pickup, being used as a weapon. Because I would have never thought of that. Because in my brain, I'm thinking emergency pickup is safety, not weapon. So he was like, well, what if you just lift someone up in the sky? And I'm like, you know what? That is so funny. I don't know if we can do it. you know, and that was a really actually an interesting technical challenge. But yeah, we said let's try to do this. So we had a lot of conversations like that. But that revive scene is like straight out of us playing video games.
Yeah,
Like,
no, we
press
had
it once, press it once.
Yeah. So there's a lot there, and we had total freedom to do all of that. Everything we wanted
Yeah.
to. Any ideas with the acting or the script or with the effects or whatnot. I mean, it was all there. There wasn't really any challenges to
No.
overcome with it. I mean, maybe the slave one with the wings and all, but that is something minor.
It was
But
cool too because like we don't have usually the luxury of like sitting back and looking at post like this.
You look
Usually
at
we're
it
like
differently. You're not looking at
yeah, like we were
yeah.
on deadlines always. Like whether they were self-imposed, I guess in a lot of ways, but these movies usually we got them quick and like accurately but quick.
Yeah.
Um, so with this, we kind of were like, hey, what if we got every single visual effect like absolutely layered and perfect? And like I did all of them, which is weird because I don't not a visual effects artist,
Yeah, I
but
wanted to ask about that.
yeah, there's so many tutorials and stuff. So, but yeah, I want to answer whatever you may specifically want to ask because there's
No, no,
just
this is awesome. Keep going. This is great.
I mean there's just so much stuff like even with Matt's gun, but I'll just say this and then maybe it would cue what specific you want to ask, but there's some great um plugins essentially that allow you to do lightsabers not like the way you used to have to do them. You used to have to do them frame by frame.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this is, and I've done frame by frame lightsabers. It's a
I tried
nightmare.
it. I gave
You have
up.
to sit there, and it really sucks. But yeah, like if you're not doing it frame by frame by frame, and you have this thing that you can drag along, it makes lightsabers, you know, much more achievable. You're not banging your head against the wall. But there's stuff that comes with visual effects that actually make them extremely challenging. Like how do you ground them? Like which way is the smoke moving when it comes off of someone? And like a
Mhm.
lot of times I brought Adam in, I'm like, am I crazy? Like, does that look good? Because I can't even tell anymore. Like I have like 40 layers on something and I can't tell.
Right.
Like the X-wing in the first shot is there for like 10 seconds. And like I had to like reverse engineer how the X-wing would crash. And after like 50 layers, I think I brought you in at least once or twice. And I was like, does
Mhm.
this look realistic? Like, does it look like it hit the thing? Because I can't, at a certain point, you can't tell anymore. You're like, did I do enough smoke?
You're too close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the ongoing problem you have,
Was that
when
all After Effects?
yeah, it was all After Effects, and I thought it would be easier with this thing they call the dynamic link, but I mean, boy, it wasn't. I had to go back in and like re-export shot by shot, like times the 50 plus shots we had to do. And so Adobe gives you this thing where you can kind of like actively change effects within the editing bay, but that does not work. It's like
Too
does
computer intensive.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and then, like, errors start to come in. We had
Yeah.
to do a crazy thing where we had to redo like, Adam's mask was done very cheap and quick, and so when you see it in close up, it didn't look that
No, you
expensive.
can see,
So, like, we went in and, like, motion tracked a new visor on him, like, when he's in close up, and you could probably tell that because it's not it's me
yeah.
trying to do it. But that was, like, another thing we had to figure out, and, like, in dynamic link, it was hysterical when you watched it because we before we exported it and got rid of dynamic link, which doesn't work, it was like jumping around. So it's like yeah, this visor jumping around. I'm like, hey, this doesn't work. But those are the things that you learn, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, especially if there's one point where I think we're doing a lightsaber duel and something's supposed to explode and hit the camera. And if you watch it, you probably wouldn't pick it up. But we were sitting there,
Oh yeah, he was
and
gorgeous.
we were like, "Wait, did you just catch that?" And then you could just see there's like little
Yeah,
green outlines,
yeah.
of this, and you wouldn't have seen it unless you were like hypersensitive to it. Like, but it was like these little like I don't know what they were
Yeah, I,
called.
I asked him to come in specifically for the shot where his character gets this stick, hit with the lightsaber because it really was something we didn't have much reference on. Like, how is this going to work? What does it look like? Wouldn't it just cut through? But we figured, let's make it explode because it's not going to be believable otherwise. But yeah, I brought him in. I'm like, do you think this works? But you could see all the green screen and the comping that I was doing on it still, and it just wasn't done well. So he was like, could you try this with a little bit more weight and things like that? But I was glad he caught that because it's one of those things where you're like, you then look at it and say, wait a second, maybe this, and this is wrong with this, And so that's kind of what's become visual effects to me. It's like, hey, this is an ongoing process. Like each one of these are like their own film. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, how do we get the stick to blow up the right way? But it's not just that. It's like the timing of the gravity of the explosion. Like how does the smoke move? You
Yeah, it's all
know,
timing.
should it move behind the character? Well, okay, if he was shot from the back, and it's got to be, like so. That type of stuff is tricky.
Yeah. But that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to, kind of have those little challenges.
Mhm.
It's better to do it on something fun and relaxed that we took six
Yeah,
months to do. We could have easily taken a year,
yeah.
but I think we just wanted to, kind of challenge ourselves. Up our, difficult level, shorten the time a little bit.
We wanted it out for Mando season 3
Yeah,
also. That was
I
the
mean,
big thing, like, "Hey, let's try to get this before or during." So that kinda became like the deadline, I guess, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, you need some kind, otherwise you'll tweak the one scene until the end of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't wanna do that. We didn't wanna be those guys.
That's really cool though. I mean, it sounds incredibly daunting, but it's awesome that people like you do it because how else do you push that envelope and how else do fan films or independent films get to that level of special effects?
Thank you. Yeah, we hope that it feels seamless and like a video game and like Star Wars and hopefully accurate to it. And but at the same time, the amount of effort that takes it is prohibitive. I mean, I can't imagine doing this type of thing constantly, like without a team of people. But it's the best thing because of that is, hey, I enjoyed it. Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that's, like after sitting there so long, that's pretty much all we want to hear is like, I enjoyed it or, oh, this was good, but all right, fine.
Yeah.
We understand that too.
It's
Um,
also got to be kind of like a boot camp where you took on so much in the special effects realm that when you do your next movie, if it's not a super special effects intensive thing, you might have some, and they might be easier or faster to do because you did the huge bulk of it all at once.
yeah.
I think that was really the reason why we ended up doing it because I know this was it's either we were writing this or talking about this before we all got our new setups and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when Jameson got his new computer and I was able to get his old one and all, we were really excited because we had the processing power to do all these things. Jameson was really happy because After Effects could uh, finally work. I would say
Yeah.
in a
Because this
lot of
wouldn't
aspects.
work
I mean,
otherwise.
so really, we just said let's just do something. And it's like, well, we always do Star Wars, so let's do another Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a great, I think it's a great idea for, independent filmmakers who have new gear or whatever and says, look, I don't want to necessarily use it on, those serious features just yet. I don't want to, unveil it yet, but I'd like to do something fun with it. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
Star Wars, or I'm a big fan of the Last of Us, or Zombie Apocalypse, or whatever it may be. I'm gonna do something, small with that and incorporate it
Yeah.
into and that, and that's what we really wanted to do, was to take all these new bells and whistles and see how, we
Exactly.
work with them. And it's worked so well to the point where it's like, okay, we didn't really have any crew, no lighting, it's all outside,
Nothing, right?
ADR,
Out on a phone.
on an
Yeah.
iPhone. I
Shot on
mean,
iPhone 4K, and it looks really good. I mean, it does look really
I would not have guessed it was shot on iPhone, but I guess that's the whole commercial they do now, right?
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, and it's an older iPhone. It's not like the newer iPhone. I mean, it's like an iPhone SE, which is like a 2015 model or something.
yeah, it's like
So, I
11.
mean, we use these things. I guess shout out, though we don't get an endorsement or sponsorship or anything, but shout out to the Moment Lens people, because they have this thing that you could just put onto. Actually, I have it here. This is the Moment lens case, lens case holder by them, and it looks just like any other phone holder, but or basically thing, and it just slides right into here like this, and locks, and then you have an anamorphic lens. So we thought that was really powerful. Like, hey, how can we do this? It's not really pragmatic to bring 4K camera into the woods if you have no insurance and stuff like that. So this
Yeah, we
allowed.
had no crew to deal with it.
You certainly don't
Yeah,
want it around
exactly.
with Matt.
Right. Yeah. We don't want everyone to trip over it.
Yeah,
And also, I mean, you can't see through those freaking helmets, man. Like,
yeah,
I got to give a lot of credit to Pedro Pascal, like all those other people.
yeah. No,
You can't see in those helmets.
no.
Matt had a really tough
And it's
time
tough
seeing.
because if when you're in the woods and whatnot, there's every inch you take is either a branch
Oh,
or a ditch or a rock or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kudos and credits to those guys. I mean, who wear the masks. I mean, it's not fun.
you have a limited range of actions that could actually
Yeah.
look good. You know what I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
too.
and that was the thing. Wearing a mask, you feel like you. I have back problems and neck problems, but like wearing a mask, when turning your head, you don't feel like you're really turning that much. You feel like you're just right there. You don't get that full scope. So you really have to be animated as much as you possibly can,
Yeah.
because otherwise, if the camera's like right in front of you, try to turn, suddenly the mask is all weird and you have to kind of look out of the right corner of your eyes. It was very tricky to kind of get those things. Matt had the best helmet.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
like directing them is tough because they like can't see you,
yeah.
and then so you can't
Okay.
really be like, hey, like, can you do this more normal,
Take
damn it?
5 steps
Make this,
forward.
make this, make this more, make that look cooler. They're like, what the hell are you saying? Because their heads like spun around like Buzz Lightyear or whatever, like they're trying to figure out like what you even mean. So a lot of times, yeah, Matt had to take his helmet off and be like, okay,
Yeah.
how am I doing this walk, and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
like
take
that.
the helmet off, practice a few times, and then do
Yeah,
it
okay,
in
how am I
gear.
doing this? And
And
pulling the blaster out.
it was all props and things that that Matt owned, that we owned. It
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't think we really had to buy anything.
No, we didn't buy much except Tom's like duster, his poncho and his thing that he
Right.
wears on him, which we tried to make as close to the man with no name as possible, the Clint Eastwood look, and I mean also shout out definitely to Tom Coughlin, who really led the movie in such an interesting and funny way. I mean, he kind of Tom Coughlin as the lead, as this Daz character, kind of really embodied what that movie is supposed to be, which is like, hey, it looks kind of serious and it looks like something, but really at the end of the day, it's very goofy and funny. And so Tom was perfect for that because in the first one, he had no personality. He basically
Yeah.
had none, and he had never spoken. So when he came out, he was like this Clint Eastwood cowboy guy. You're kind of just like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Um,
It really wasn't any of the dynamics um in this one that we had in the last ones. I
Yeah,
mean,
there was no
everything was
character
ramped up.
development
Yeah.
before. Like now we try to develop characters and hoping that, if we were to do a third part, there's always an if, I guess, but if we were to do a third one, that we would be able to play with the characters further, like that they actually don't like each other because of this reason and stuff like that. We just thought that was cool. Like, hey, we know how to write characters. Like, why don't we put characters into this? Like, let's not treat it like, a silly, YouTube video. Like, let's actually try to do full production work
Yeah.
on that and see how
Give
good
it
we can
body.
make it.
Give it,
Yeah. So that was the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool that you did that much work. Like, well, we'll just have fun with it.
yeah.
No, it's awesome, and it's hard because you have to have the mental. I think it's more about your mentality up here, but your the mental fortitude to be like, I know I'm doing this for a reason, like constantly. And I think that's and I think Adam can speak to this too. That's kind of like just what filmmaking is. You know what I mean? It's like even if you're on something where you're getting paid and whatever else, at the end of the day, it's about how you approach it, and why you keep approaching it, why you keep coming to the set. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, sometimes it's not ideal conditions, but like we have an idea in mind, and it's not just the vision and the things that people talk about. Like, we want to really see this movie, like, wouldn't it be
Yeah.
awesome? So that to have that drive you for 6 months, shot by shot, through a score, through an ADR redo, through everything else is, it is a level of dedication. And for something so, quote, silly, at the end of the day, people recognize, like, wow, hey, you guys put a lot of effort into this. And it does show. I think that passion and that dedication does show at the end of the day, by everybody. So I'm very proud of that. Like, hey, we did stick with it and we made that weird thing into a really cool, bigger weird thing.
Right. Yeah, the passion angle of it is huge. I mean, even movie fans who have never tried to like really go for it, with all the behind the scenes and making ofs, and like you have to know by now that there's a way easier way to make a living if you're just doing it for a paycheck. It's definitely a passion
Yeah.
project every time.
100%. Yeah, you're there because of, your spirit of wanting to do it. And like it's obviously it's so much cooler when it can be like a bunch of friends doing it too, because it's like, hey, I want to see what you guys can do. I believe
Yeah.
in what you're doing.
And that was the cool thing also, is just, having a couple of friends who are not actors, when they came to set, they wanted to have that professionalism of an actor to them. They said, okay, I'm here. They're putting their time in to get me on camera to do this bit. I gotta work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, you know, dead serious, but it was like that energy, that mood was there of like having fun, but also it's like, okay, they're setting up the camera. He's almost ready. Let's get going. Oh, I don't know. I need to get my lines down. Okay, I'll take a little break while they're, setting up things. Everybody was doing their job like they would if they were getting paid for it.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
at some point, I would say better than some of the people that we work with. And
Yeah, it's true.
so that says something, is that, just the inspiration that, of doing Star Wars or sci-fi or whatever, your passion is, that's a big factor in I think of how satisfied you'll be with the product,
It's
with
true. I mean,
the
really, in the most successful things, you always see whoever the cast or the crew is, they always put the real life things aside. Obviously,
Mhm.
people have their problems, but when it does not become about the money, and about the stress of whatever it is, and it starts to become a little bit more like a family, trying to help each other, but also, trying to make sure they don't let the other person down, which is not really what we're asking of them. But, hey, we want to do a good job for them, and they, reciprocate. When that happens, that's really the things that are the most successful. And also to have people who are inexperienced, just be able to think on their feet and on the fly. I mean, one of my favorite parts in the movie is I didn't, usually I would prepare actors ridiculously, but a lot of things I didn't tell someone like Tom Coughlin, like, hey, there's going to be, this character who's played by me in the sky coming to you as a force ghost, like I didn't tell him that until like as we were shooting. I'm like, there's something, there's something in the sky, and it's me, and I've come back and I'm a force ghost and I'm talking to you. And his reaction, I mean, his face just drops like, what? I wasn't prepared for that. So, these ways that we work with each other, knowing each other as friends, but also allowing the process to surprise us, I think is what makes these things so special. It's a once in a lifetime experience when you
Yeah.
make something like this. And it's like, hey, if everyone can only look at it that way and not let the other things get in the way, that's to us like the real filmmaking.
Yeah, and for your friends who aren't professionals in the entertainment industry at all, I mean, it's probably something that they'll remember for pretty much ever. Just look back at it like, like almost like you guys went to like a summer camp together. Like that was the most fun summer I ever had.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the type of, love and, the care that everybody had and like, hey, let's just make something cool and then hopefully people outside of us, see that and feel that too.
Yeah, yeah. And I do like that you decided like, yes, we're doing this for fun, but we have to make it the best it can be because I think that really translates, especially now with however many hundreds of hours are uploaded to YouTube every day.
Yeah.
People will give you 5 seconds. And if it's just like, oh, they didn't even care, why should I? But when they see like, oh, these people really cared, it comes through in the work for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we also well, there's an interesting other part about this just to go on quick, which is like in the beginning, when we really realized that like, okay, maybe people won't know what a battle royale is. Sorry, there's a train coming by. But
Yeah.
Adam and I did an interesting thing, which is that we hired a guy on Fiverr,
Mhm.
and just to give him a shout out, his name is Mark Sanders on Fiverr, and he's like a Sheev Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine sound alike. And we got him to read this little script for us and explain what a battle royale is, in the hopes that we can bring people right in from wherever they're clicking on it. Like, wow, this is a really exciting opening 30 seconds, which was the type of thing that we have learned over 10 years of doing YouTube is like, hey, how do we catch them in the first 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Whoa, there's like a Palpatine and it's like a loading screen and everything else. So that was kind of, you know, our experience or us trying to, learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because YouTube is its own beast. It's a scary thing.
Yeah, it's a whole other platform. It's true. You
Yeah,
are fighting for whatever it is, attention, I guess, but it's more like, if you put the effort in, it shows.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. You got to rise up to the top. That's great. You guys also mentioned a book. Is that something you can go into now? You said it was more of a summer
Yeah,
thing.
so we'll just talk briefly about it. It's called the book that we have coming out is called "The Script Is Not Enough,"
Yep.
and we already have, basically, it's I mean, it's written and it's been edited or it's being in the process of being edited. It has a cover design, and it's really kind of just like our motto from Film Valor is, hey, like here's how, we have made four of these feature films. It's actually about the ones prior to 7x7. Like what it was each of these like from a budget perspective, everything else. But it's also supposed to be fun. Like hey, it's got a James Bond theme to it. Doctor No Budget, and you only hire twice, which in our case is true because the teams are so small. So
Mhm.
it's about like um, just how we approach films for young filmmakers specifically, and also Adam does an entire great section, which is one of my favorite parts of it, which is about like how he got into making music. So that entire section is about music and what all of that is like for people who might be interested in composing. So we're hoping that's going to be out, by we're thinking by the summer, hopefully the early summer on like Amazon, hopefully Barnes and Noble and Walmart and all those good places as well.
That's huge.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
thank you. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
lot. Been a
When
long.
that gets closer, drop me a line. We'll get
Yeah.
to it.
Definitely.
Absolutely, will do.
Yeah. No.
Very cool. Well, guys, I really appreciate your time. I know I kept you longer than I initially would have, but that was really awesome to go deep diving on both 7x7 and your battle royale video.
No,
Thanks
it's
for
all
having
good,
us.
man.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
We're always happy to talk about film, and hopefully, hopefully it means something to someone else who's trying to put their thing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find these kind of conversations, even though I'm not making films, it's super inspirational for any creative endeavor you want to do. Just to talk to people like you guys who are, I mean, film's probably the hardest thing to just get into as an independent. So it's awesome that you're just like, well, we're just gonna make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. It
Yeah.
means a lot. It truly does.
Yeah. Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah. So for people listening, 7x7, Tubi would be the best place to point them to for that.
Yeah, Tubi streaming free on Tubi right now. Definitely the best place to support us with 7x7.
And for your battle royale videos, Film Valor is the name of your YouTube channel.
Yeah, Film Valor. It's right there. Main video. It's called Battle Royale 2. For a few Mandos more, you can see that right there too.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks again. I really appreciate it, and I'll get this up as soon as possible.
Great. Thanks,
Thanks.
Adam.
Thanks for having us. Always great speaking.
You too. Huge thank you to Adam and Jamison for taking time out of their obviously busy schedules to come back on the show, talking about 7x7 Battle Royale, how Film Valor's doing as a company, just everything. These guys are busy. These guys are doing the work, and it shows because everything they send is awesome. 7x7 is available right now for free on Tubi. Well worth checking out. 7 short stories. It's really good. And also, their Battle Royale 2 is on their YouTube page, totally free to watch, of course. And Battle Royale 1 is right there as well. I actually watched 2 first, then went back and watched 1, and it was really cool. One, to get the full thing, but also just to see how far they've come in such a short amount of time. Also, they have another movie out. The first one that I saw of theirs called No Fear, Know. Cannot recommend it highly enough, especially if you're into horror. So check all that out. Check their website. It's going to be in the comments. I'll put links to 7 by 7 links to Battle Royale 2. Check it all out. Huge thanks to those guys and keep on doing the work because you guys are great. Make sure to like and subscribe. We got a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, screeners, Amazon screeners, comic reviews, unboxings, all that stuff coming your way. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, make sure to listen to So Was Your Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Was Your Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. So Was Your Podcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments. Leave us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows, both audio and video. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies. It's high school told through the prism of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and love and inspired us. And it's a hilarious ongoing series. We have 10 issues available now with more on the way. Check it all out at socialstudiescomic.com. A lot on global comics and a lot on comicsology. Thanks.